Ron, good to see you. Come in.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. So very excited about the 500th episode.
Ron looks around the room and frowns just a bit.
Sylvia, I thought we were going to have a human judge. All I see are your darn ghosts again.
Well, about that.
You don't have a judge for the Ghost Story Throwdown?
I do, but we have to go to her.
Okay. I'll bet you have things all set up at the Peoria Hospital. I know how you love that place, and I've been dying to see it.
Well, about that. It is a bit further away.
Well, I guess that's okay. Where are we off to then?
Virginia Beach, Virginia.
Sylvia, that's like 1,000 miles away from here.
No, it's not. It is 913 miles. Give or take a mile or two. And if I remember right, your car can do 2,000 miles per hour. No problem, right?
Big problem. My car's in the shop. Driving that fast does terrible things to the tires.
Ugh, I'll bet. Well, what are we going to do? She's waiting for us.
Ron knows exactly what he has to do. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out a device of an alien design.
Sylvia, when was the last time you ate?
I don't know. Maybe 30 minutes ago, I guess. Why?
That should be okay. Do you have any allergic reactions to cosmic radiation or the attenuation of physical reality?
Cosmic what?
Okay, we're here in Virginia Beach. I'll call us an Uber. What's the address?
No,
No, don't worry about that. You'll be able to talk normally soon, I think. That's just one of the side effects.
Sylvia hopes so, and after some learning how to write forward again, manages to scribble down the address. Ron calls for an Uber.
Sylvia, I have no idea what you just said, but I'm sure you're right. Hello and welcome to the podcast. This is Ron's Amazing Stories. We have stories that should thrill you a little and chill you a little.
It's amazing.
What you'll hear are adventures sent in by you guys, classic stories from the pulp mags, and episodes from the golden age of radio. We have special segments like Ghost Stories with Sylvia.
That's amazing.
And Paranormal Expeditions.
I think we're going to have a lot of fun.
So settle in for the next hour and enjoy the show. One more thing. You just might want to prepare yourself to be taken away from today.
Another 5-minute mystery.
This 5-minute mystery is being brought to you by the 500th episode of Ron's Amazing Stories. Finally here, and I can't even believe it. It all started back in April of 2011, and it brings us to today. I want to say thank you to all of you for listening to me and supporting the show. Now for a really dumb mystery.
That was a grand show, Pete.
At $5.50 a seat, it had to be.
There you go about money again.
And why not? If I had it, we'd be married by now.
We can't wait for my uncle to die to inherit his estate.
I'm sorry, Margaret. No bank account, no marriage.
Pete, if I get some money, will you do as I ask?
Maybe. But how are you going to get your hands on any?
Never mind how. I'll get it.
Hey there, Miss Talbot. You sound grim. What are you going to do?
Get a dowry for my marriage?
Hello? This is Graham.
Mr. Graham, this is Inspector Todd, police.
Police? What's the matter?
I'll have to ask you to come down to my office at headquarters. Your fiancé's uncle has been killed in an automobile wreck.
Good heavens, of course. I'll be right down.
Pete. Oh, Pete, it's horrible. Uncle Mike dead.
I know. Now, please, Margaret, stop crying.
I'm Inspector Todd, Mr. Graham. Do you have a chair, please?
Oh, thank you.
Now, about the wreck. I've already told you about the car going off the cliff.
I knew something would happen to him with that new English car of his. He was just learning how to drive it.
We have evidence that points to murder, Miss Talbot, not an accident.
Murder?
Yes. Our investigation proves that the steering wheel of the car was tampered with. The wheel broke on a treacherous stretch of road about a mile from your house, Miss Talbot. It was a clever scheme.
A completely fiendish one.
I agree. Miss Talbot, I'd like very much to question Mr. Graham alone. Would you wait outside for a moment, please?
Of course.
I'll put my cards on the table, Mr. Graham. I believe that your fiancée killed her uncle by fixing that wheel.
But she couldn't have done it. She's innocent, I tell you.
Well, why are you so certain?
Because I loosened the wheel.
You?
Yes. I decided to do it last night. We were sitting in the car in the garage, and we were talking about the future. Pretty soon I had my arm around Margaret, and I thought how swell it would be if we could get her uncle's money and marry.
Which arm did you put around her?
Well, the right one, of course. What else when I'm sitting at the wheel? After I took her to the house, I came back and did it. Now, please, let Margaret go home.
I'm afraid I can't do that. Your imaginary confession, despite its nobility, completely absolves you from the crime. Your fiancée tampered with that wheel, not you. And I'm holding her for murder.
What slip did Pete Graham make in his confession to Inspector Todd? In just a moment, we'll know.
Well, that story lacked anything interesting or informative.
Wrong. There you go again.
Are you going to say that I missed something?
No, but you are not expanding your perceptions to improve your detective skills. Something you do quite often, I might add.
Oh, really?
If you had really listened to the narrative, you could solve this with little effort.
And just what didn't I hear?
What do you know about English automobiles?
Not much, I'm afraid.
And that is why you fail.
Because I'm not a car guy?
No, because you are an idiot who is not a car guy.
And now, back to our story.
Your confession fell apart completely, Mr. Graham, when you told me that you had placed your right arm around her while you were at the wheel. Since the uncle's car was of an English make, as Miss Talbot pointed out, the steering wheel is at the right of the car, making the arm position you described impossible. No, Mr. Graham, your motive does you credit, much more so than your storytelling. I wanted you to convince me of a few details. Your confession proved your innocence and her guilt.
Well, okay, I can see that. I should have noticed the right arm thing.
Right, but what I want to know is why the detective is so sure she did it.
Well, she had means, a solid motive, and even the opportunity.
Good point.
Does this mean that I've redeemed myself somewhat?
Not even close, my dear idiot Ronald.
What's that you say?
Hello and welcome to the podcast. This is the 500th episode of the show, and it's hard to believe that it's actually happening. I have come to think of 500 as a pretty big number.
Well, Ron, it is. Only halfway to 1,000.
Or you could say it's landmark at 500?
I could, but then I wouldn't be doing my job.
And just what is your job?
I am here to give you grief. Simple as that.
And British guy, I gotta tell you, you do your job pretty well.
Why, thank you, Ron. That means a lot.
It wasn't a compliment. Anyway, welcome to the 500th episode of Ron's Amazing Stories. Did you know that Ron's Amazing Stories is sponsored by Audible? Audible is home to over 180,000 audiobooks, any of which can be yours. All you have to do is sign up for a 30-day free trial, and Audible will give you a free book and access to their original content. To download your free audiobook, go to audibletrial.com/Ron's Amazing Stories. Thank you, Audible. We all love a good story, but what we truly crave is a ghost story. It's time now for Ghost Stories with Sylvia. Sylvia Shults is a librarian and author by day, but at night, she becomes a ghost hunter. Following a lifetime spent in the pursuit of the weird and the strange, her non-fiction works include Ghost of the Illinois River, Fractured Spirits, 44 Years in Darkness, Hunting Demons, and The Spirits of Christmas. We now cross over the veil and join Sylvia as she tells us more tales from the unknown.
Come on in.
Hey, Joyce, how's it going?
Hi, Joyce. My name's Ron. We've talked on the phone.
Nice to meet you, Ron.
I want to thank you first for hosting the 500th episode of Ron's Amazing Stories.
This is great.
I am so jazzed.
Sylvia, how long do you think it's been that you've actually been on Ron's Amazing Stories? Do you have any idea now?
Gosh, I was trying to think of that the other day. I think we've been working together. Well, we've been doing the Ghost Stories with Sylvia for like 3 years, isn't it?
Try again.
4?
Try one more time, maybe a little higher.
We have not been doing Ghost Stories with Sylvia for 5 years.
One more year.
Well, I know we've been doing a month of spooky.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. 6 years ago, we started Ghost Stories with Sylvia, Volume 1.
Wow.
But yes, 6 years we've been doing this.
How time does fly.
And we've had some amazing times.
Holy cats, yes we have.
That's crazy. That is crazy.
The way Sylvia and I first met was she put an ad in a website called Radio Guest.
No, you put the ad in and I responded to it.
Well, okay, that's true.
Yeah.
And what I did is I saw this, and at first I wasn't real sure about it. Here's this crazy lady, but I thought, you know what? I'm going to give her a call back. And that was 6, maybe 7 years ago, and you've been part of the show, and the fans love you, and Sylvia, I love you.
Oh, I am so delighted to be a part of Ron's Amazing Stories.
And here we are, 500 episodes into the show, and I would not, if you had told me back in 2011 that I would be still doing this in 2021, I would have told you that you're nuts.
Oh. Well, here we are, episode 500. I am just so thrilled and delighted to be a part of this, Ron. I can't even tell you.
I am too. I'm thrilled.
Well, I'm glad to have you here, Joyce. And can I tell the listeners a little bit about you?
Absolutely.
Well, I want to welcome Joyce Cavello. She is a listener from Virginia Beach. She's married, a mom of 3, a grandmother of 4, born, raised, and married military, and retired. She's a fan of ghost stories, loves visiting old plantation, and staying at haunted houses. Sound like anyone you know, Sylvia?
Oh, it most certainly does.
Her favorite places are the Myrtles Plantation in St. Francisville, Louisiana, and the Crescent Hotel in Eureka Springs, Arkansas.
And she's got a real soft spot for the Peoria State Hospital, too.
Yes.
Now, I have heard tell that you're a beekeeper.
Yes. Actually, my whole family is. Me, my husband, and all 3 of my kids are.
I have a question about beekeeping.
Okay.
How often do you get stung?
I've been stung 3 times in, I don't know, 8 years.
No way.
My husband and my sons, they get lit up. They get lit up. They swell up and, time for Benadryl. And yeah, they don't bother me.
You're kidding.
No, I'm too sweet. No, they don't bother me.
Okay.
But they'll go under my husband and my sons, they'll get underneath the back of their shirt or up their pant leg and wearing bee suits. And yeah, they start dancing around. It's funny. They don't bother me. When you're looking out your face shield that you have on,
mm-hmm.
and you see the underside of the bee looking at you, that's not good. It's not like you can splat it.
Well, let me tell you, if I ever do come to your residence and actually stay there, I got to bring an EpiPen. Because I am highly allergic to bees.
Oh, no.
So
I have them in my backyard.
Your bees or EpiPens?
Both.
That's wise.
The pens are on my refrigerator in the kitchen, but my bees are in my backyard.
Well, fortunately, bees around here aren't a problem. And I know you've all heard about the giant killer bees that are supposed to be around here, but they're nowhere near here. And if they ever do, I'm going to move to Chicago, Illinois. I've already decided.
I have bats in my backyard too.
Well, bats don't bother me. In fact, I love bats.
Yeah, we have a bat house. I got 42 of them that we counted the other night coming out.
Wow.
Now, I'm not sure I'd want to be around 42 of them, but
they're up on the light pole. They don't bother us. They eat the mosquitoes.
I bet they do. All right. Well, Sylvia, do you want to tell everybody why we're here today?
Oh, we are here because our last Ghost Story Throwdown ended in a tie. And we can't have that.
No, and we received quite a few emails from people saying that it was not a fair affair. And by that I mean they felt it was rigged. Most everyone said that the whole thing was rigged. So rigged. That's what they said.
The nerve. Well, we must have this above board. We must listen and bow to the people's will and have something completely above board.
Which is why Joyce is here today.
That's true. She is going to be our actual, true, honest-to-God human judge.
And she is going to be impartial and fair.
Yes,
I'm sure she is.
All right, so what we're going to do this time is we're going to have 3 stories, but we are going to have no way of knowing which 3 are real or if they are all fake. The point system is going to be based on whether or not we can fake the other person out. So if Sylvia tells a story and I say it's fake but it's real, Sylvia gets a point. If I tell a story and it's fake and Sylvia says it's real, I get a point. So that means that there's a total of 3 points for both of us there. Then we are going to allow Joyce to take over and decide which of the 2 stories wins that round. You good to do that, Joyce?
Yes, but if people don't like my answer, there's going to be trouble.
Well, we'll accept your answer. I personally will accept whatever you say. Sylvia?
All right.
Totally cool with Joyce's decisions.
So are we ready to start this thing? Are we ready to start Sylvia versus Ron Ghost Story Throwdown?
Let's do it.
All right.
Let me crack a beer before you start that. So that you don't hear.
I'm going to leave that in. All right, Sylvia, how are we going to determine who goes first? I went first last time, if that means anything.
Oh, did you? Okay, well, then I'll go first this time.
All right.
That's right. I remember. You told that wonderful story about the Joliet prison.
I did.
Yeah. Okay, so you've always heard the saying that Lake Superior never gives up her dead. Lake Superior, one of the great lakes around here, is so cold and so large that ships that sink, the bodies just stay down there and are preserved in the cold deeps. There was a diver that was going down to explore a ship called the Emperor. That was a steel ore freighter that was lost with 12 men in 1947 on Lake Superior. Now, this diver was down there exploring, and he swam into one of the cabins, the cabin that belonged to one of the deckhands. And he looked over at the bed, and he was very startled to see the apparition of a crewman lying peacefully in his bunk. The ghost just kind of stared blankly at the diver, who quickly determined that he had seen enough. He backed out of the room and swam for the surface.
Interesting.
What do you think about that?
Good story. All right, you do have a really big lake with a really big ship and a really interesting ghost, but I'm calling foul.
That is true.
It's true.
It is true. Yes.
A point for Sylvia.
I was going to say, I've read something about the divers going up to Lake Superior.
Well, I knew that part was true because I've actually seen a documentary on something along that lines. I think it might have been Lake Michigan, but I'm not sure.
Oh, was it the mortician? Ask a Mortician?
That sounds right.
That was Lake Superior, yeah. She's got this fascination with Lake Superior. Yeah, she does.
Okay, one for Sylvia.
Yeah, that's one for Sylvia. All right, you ready for my
first? Don't sound so glum.
Well, I think I talked a lot of smack in the last episode, and I said that I knew your tell, and I knew when you were lying. I thought the bunk was over the top, that there would be a sailor underneath the water. I thought that was over the top. And so I guess I got to take you seriously. That's what it all amounts to.
That'll teach you smack talk.
All right, well, you want to hear my story?
I do.
I mean, we can tie this thing up right away. In fact, I don't even have to read it if you want to just give me a point.
I want to hear a story. Tell me a story.
All right, here we go.
Ron.
All right, here we go. There is a city just north of Vancouver called Battleground. It owes its name to an 1855 encounter between a company of Washington volunteers from Fort Vancouver, led by Captain William Strong, and the members of the Klickitat tribe. They fled the internment camp near Fort Vancouver. At the time, there was much distrust and fear between the settlers and Native Americans of the area. Captain Strong and his company followed the Klickitat tribe members to a location northwest of Fort Vancouver. The encounter, which many expected would turn violent and become a battle, never did. Captain Strong made an agreement with the Klickitat leader, Chief Umtak, that the tribe members would return to the fort the next day. But in a mysterious turn of events, still unsolved today, Chief Umtak was killed. Captain Strong made the decision to withdraw his troops, allow the tribe members time they needed to honor their fallen chief. He trusted their word that they would return to the fort. While peace prevailed, the tribe members honored their word by returning to the fort. Captain Strong was criticized and mocked by many for his actions. The area where he had met up with the tribe became referred to as Strong's Battleground. Soon after, the area began to appear on maps as Battleground. Now, guys, this part of the story is 100% fact. True. Now, why am I telling you this? Simply because the area around there has many stories of hauntings. In the area where the Klickitat tribe held their ground, you can hear the war cries of the dead chief Umtak. The Clark County Historical Museum is said to be haunted by the apparition of a boy in old-fashioned clothing who has been known to materialize in the basement. Voices are also heard when there's no one around. And finally, there is a story which comes from the curator of the museum, Samuel Grams. This was taken from an article in The Reflector, which is Battleground's official newspaper. Grams was asked if he had ever seen anything strange in the museum. I have. One night I was working late, cataloging some new items recently acquired. The Native American art from circa 1850 was donated by the Klickitat Reservation. I was holding a ceremonial mask when I heard a sound from behind me. I turned around to see that what I could only describe as a Klickitat warrior. He made a thrusting motion towards me and then vanished. I left the mask on the table and got out of that museum with great speed, I might add. That ends my story.
Fascinating.
Well, I believe that the northwestern Indians were a tribe, that area of the country. The Native Americans did make masks for ceremonies and whatnot. And I could totally see the Indians donating a mask to the museum in order to preserve their cultural heritage. And the apparition of the warrior just making a thrusting motion, appearing and acting as if he's in battle, that rings true to me. And it's a haunted museum, and I just really, really, really want it to be true. I'm going to go with true.
All right, Joyce, what do you think? Do you think this one's true?
I believe it's a true story.
Well, I have some sad news for you.
Oh, don't you dare.
What?
Well, I made all that up. I did, every last bit of it. Except for the story of how Battleground got its name. That is totally true.
Okay.
And I even stopped and told you that. The rest of that, that's all garbage.
You're just a fibber.
I am.
Gosh darn it, you're right. Joyce is. And here I was going to add another haunted museum to my list.
Well, okay.
I know.
Can I point out that the Clark County Historical Museum isn't actually in Battleground?
How are we supposed to know that?
Well, you wouldn't. But if
She's
you do,
in Virginia. I'm in Illinois.
I know, but hey, that's okay. But
that's
here's
dirty pool.
Well, okay, maybe so. But hang on. The Clark
Don't
County.
do that when I'm drinking out of mouth of pina colada, dude. Oh, it came out my nose.
Well, one thing is the Clark County Historical Museum isn't in Battleground, but it is said to be haunted by an apparition of a boy in old-fashioned clothing who is so known to materialize in the basement. That little statement there is true.
Well, okay then. So the story's true.
Well, no.
Like I said.
There's no voices heard when nobody's around, and the reflector certainly didn't do anything with this Samuel Graham's character. And the Click Attack never donated a mask to the museum. It's all fake.
Fine. Oh.
All right, I get a point.
And that's why you are in a padded room. Touche,
all right.
Ron.
Well, I would say that round one is complete. Now we have to find out who gets Joyce's point for that round.
Which story was more full of awesome?
Yeah, my story, of course.
Well, Ron's story was more full of awesome because I was like, okay, yeah, I can see it. I can see the little Indian moo, and then it's all a lie.
Yeah.
So, do I get a point?
Yeah, you get a point.
Oh, Joyce!
Woohoo!
I, just because I know you, I can't vote for you. He had a better story.
Okay.
We can't, he said I have
That's
to be
right.
impartial.
You were hired on to be an impartial judge. You are absolutely correct, Joyce.
I was not hired. I was not hired.
You were invited. You were invited on to be an impartial judge, and that is what you are doing. I thank you.
All right, Sylvia, you're up with story number 2.
Okay. So this story comes to us from Vincennes, Indiana. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I've never actually been there. But the headquarters of the Sigma Pi Fraternity is said to be haunted by Colonel Eugene Wharf, the original owner of the building in which the headquarters is located. The 13-acre estate was once known as Rebel Hill because, oddly enough, even though it was in Indiana, it was a meeting place for Southern sympathizers before the Civil War. The Wharf family left it to Vincennes University in the 1950s, and in 1962, it was given to Sigma Pi Fraternity. So where the ghost comes in is this ghost of the colonel. He still hangs around his old home, and it's manifested by roaming cold spots, lights that go on and off by themselves, objects that move mysteriously, and a discarnate male voice. The ghost also has a nasty habit of turning cups of hot coffee into cold muck with a gust of icy cold wind.
Ooh,
Alrighty then.
that's real.
I would say that's real because that's Vincennes, Indiana. I've been there.
Ah, okay.
I drive through Indiana every time I come to Illinois.
Ah, okay. It is absolutely real, yes.
Point.
All right, your turn, Ron.
All right. My story. Well, the Slocum House is a Victorian-style mansion located in Vancouver, Washington. The home is a skilled craftsmanship work of Edward Slocum, the brother of the owner. Ornamental medallions inside the house were signed and included patent dates from 1842 and 1846. Although the house is believed to have been constructed in 1867, this house is very haunted. There are two major characteristics of the hauntings that go on at the Slocum House. The first is rather small and even amusing. A caretaker lives in a small apartment in the building. For some reason, he can't keep his cereal boxes on top of the refrigerator. Strange as it may sound, the ghost who haunts that portion of the house does not like to have anything placed on top of the appliance. Whenever the caretaker places anything there, mostly cereal, and leaves the room for a few minutes, he finds the object on the floor when he returns, as if someone came along, reached up, and swatted the box off the top of the refrigerator in anger or maybe frustration. The second haunting at the Slocum House is a little sadder. The Slocum's ghosts may haunt the old building. Laura Slocum could not have children, which was one of her true and only desires in life. She coped with this disappointment as best she could. She and Joshua, that's her husband, both loved children and always welcomed the neighborhood with cookies and parties. Sometimes when there are children present in the house, people have reported seeing a misty figure silently looking at the gathered children. One of the caretakers was taking a bath in the spring of 2000. He left the bathroom door open. He was not worried about his modesty since he was alone in the house. From the tub, he could see into the women's costume room through the open door. He sat up in the tub when he saw what he thought were the curtains hanging on the wall start rustling and billowing. Even though it alarmed him, he did not leave the comfort of his hot tub. He told his sister Rebecca about the incident later and blamed the movement on a draft from the windows. Rebecca informed him, "There are no curtains in that room, just costumes." She suggested that what he really saw was the ghost of Mrs. Slocum. There you have it.
Now, fake. Who takes a bath with the door open?
Okay, I got
Come
one.
on now.
Sylvia?
Well, it takes an awful lot of energy to push things off of a refrigerator. And yes, the refrigerator is giving off a lot of energy, but it takes an awful lot of energy to do that every single time somebody puts something on the top of the fridge and leaves the room. And I agree with Joyce. Who takes a bath with the door open? But otherwise, how could we have the part about him seeing the billowing curtains?
Well, the lack of curtains, actually.
Right. Well, there weren't any actual curtains.
I don't know any males that take a bath anyway.
Well, it said one of the caretakers. It could have been a female character, although it wasn't. It was a guy.
Right. Yeah. He kept using he.
Oh, yeah.
I'm stalling. See, I want every story I hear to be true, but okay, since there were so many disparate parts to this story, they can't all be false. I'll go with true. Why not?
Yes, every bit of that is true, and you can find it on the Slocum House website. That is all true. That place is just creepy when you go into it. It's actually right downtown Vancouver. It is a beautiful place, but I tell you, when you look at it, you go, oh, that's haunted. So yes, this is all right out of the pages of the website for the Slocum House.
Oh, wow. Nice. And it was the part about the woman not being able to have children and standing around in a misty form when children visited. That really rang true for me. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so Sylvia, on your round, and his was real. So now you're tied.
Okay, so you had the better story.
Actually, I liked yours better on that round.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
We're heading for a tie.
So right now, I have 3 points. Is that right? Well, whatever. We can total up points when we're done. Let's tell more stories.
All right, we got one more to go.
Okay.
Why don't you tell something about something that's not on the West Coast, Ron?
Well, then you're not going to like my last story, Joyce.
Give me something to work with here, man.
Well, I think this one is actually on the West Coast because it involves Ventura Harbor, which I think is... It must be somewhere in California. It has to do with the Pacific Ocean. The ocean, anyway.
Yeah, Ventura Highway. The Eagles.
Yeah.
The Eagles.
Oh, sure.
So this is a little bit longer. There is a story about a haunted yacht, a trim little schooner that berths in Ventura Harbor. She did all sorts of charter work and would go out on sightseeing tours, take people out fishing and whatnot. But back in the 1970s, to pick up a little cash, the owner decided to use his boat to do another less romantic but just as necessary service. The Swift, that was the boat's name, was used to scatter the ashes of those who chose cremation rather than a traditional burial. There were a lot of people getting cremated, and sometimes people would ask that their ashes be scattered out to sea. And many of these people who requested the service envisioned a stately service, the rolling waves underneath the boat gently rocking, the captain in his fine uniform reading the service, and then the ashes being sprinkled overboard onto the waves of the ocean. So the story comes to us from a man who was once the master of the Swift, this schooner that I'm talking about. The ship would go out to a predetermined location at sea, and they didn't usually, sometimes there weren't family members there, so when there weren't family members there, they didn't do this whole dignified service. They just kind of dumped the box overboard and may or may not have read a prayer, depending on the time schedule they had. The object was, in their eyes, to accomplish this task as quickly as possible and get it over with and return to port. And when there were mourners along, of course, they did it upright and with a whole solemn and the captain in his uniform and whatnot. They did it right when there were actual mourners there, but sometimes there weren't. Now, one voyage of the Swift was just rife with mishaps. Nothing seemed to go right. The weather was kicking up. They set out from their harbor, and the wind started kicking up whitecaps. They went out to the destination where they were going to drop this fellow's ashes. And the master came up on deck with this box, and he was carrying it. And just then, the boat hit a wave, and the guy carrying the box stumbled and lost his balance and dropped the cardboard box as he grabbed onto a line for support. And the box fell to the deck, burst open, and the ashes did not go off the side of the boat, but back into the bilge of the ship. And the men on the deck were just absolutely horrified, like, oh my gosh, what did we just do? And they tried to scoop up everything they could of this unfortunate fellow, but a lot of the ashes kind of got lost in the cracks in the deck. They did not get properly scattered into the ocean. They were just part of the ship from then on. And forever since then, since the 1970s, The misty image of a man has been seen in the aft part of the ship near the spot where the ashes were accidentally dropped. One woman chartered the Swift for a pleasure voyage, and on the voyage she reported that she saw a man wearing a turtleneck sweater standing beside her on the deck. And she was like, I don't remember anybody wearing a turtleneck sweater that was in my party. And she turned to look at him, and he vanished. And there was nothing there to see but the salt spray coming over the side of the boat.
Interesting.
Well, that's a great story.
Thank you. You know I used to write horror, right?
Yeah, I know. Here's the thing that I liked about the story. I liked the fact that it had continuity. It had a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Well, yes.
Which is why I think it's fake.
Yeah, because why would you be out on a boat with a turtleneck on? But it is California.
It's a bit breezy out there on the ocean. That is also real.
It is?
Yep. That actually happened.
Oh, boy.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Well, so I have to ask, Sylvia, did you rewrite that yourself?
I rewrote it as I was reading it. I didn't read it verbatim.
Well, it was just so very well written, is why I was saying.
Thank you. I have this book. I told you this when we first started doing ghost stories with Sylvia. I have these notebooks that whenever I find a really extraordinarily cool ghost story, I write it down verbatim in this book. And when I tell these stories on the show, I kind of read them and put them in my own words. But yeah, that actually happened.
Wow. Well, that was very well written and well put together, and it fooled the heck out of me.
Thank you.
Wow.
That was your tell, by the way.
What?
Whenever you have written something in the realm of ghost stories like this, I can tell when you've written something, because you have a distinct style, and that's what I was banking on that story.
She's a great writer.
Yeah.
Ron, when I get Sylvia's books, when she sends them to me, because we barter back and forth, and she sends me her newest book, I'll read it in one day in the pool, and I'm like, oh, snap.
Yeah, she has some great stories. I have read her books as well, except for the demon one. And and I got to say, they are very well written. Well, Sylvia, kudos to you.
Thank you.
All right, well, this story comes from less than 2 miles from my home. More than one person has reported eerie feelings and hearing strange noises at the homes across from the Park Hill Cemetery at 5915 East Mill Plain Boulevard. Here is a story from a person we shall call, Brandon. A few years ago, I was staying in the basement of a house across the street from the cemetery on Mill Plain Boulevard. We'd been playing around with a Ouija board that evening. I never believed they actually did anything until that night. My friend and I were smoking a cigarette down at the bottom of the basement stairs next to the laundry room, just outside of the room where we played with the Ouija board. We sat there just chatting, and a loud, deep voice came out from beneath the basement stairs and very clearly said, "Get out." I couldn't believe it until I saw the look on my friend's face. Before I could say anything, he asked, "Did you hear that?" Another story from the cemetery itself involves strange lights at the center roundup. Timothy McBride had just finished placing flowers on his mother's grave. It was just before dusk, and he was packing his car to leave. He felt a chill come over him, and his entire body went weak. Seconds later, beads of light encircled him. The next thing he knew, he woke up lying on the ground. The strange part was that the flowers that he had placed on his mother's grave were beside him. He took this as a sign, took the flowers home, and has never gone back.
Never went back to his mother's grave?
That's what I said.
Oh, that's just rude.
That's a shame. People get funny about that sort of thing, though. Yeah, now I have to decide if it's true or not. I don't want to believe that the guy never went back to his mother's grave. I mean, gee whiz.
Well, at least the flowers weren't dead when he came.
That's what I was thinking. That's exactly where my mind went. Oh, the flowers had faded. He lost time or something like that. He lost several weeks. That's exactly what I was
And what
thinking.
cemetery was this in, Ron?
It's called the Park Hill Cemetery at 5915 East Mill Plain Boulevard.
There in Vancouver?
Right there in Vancouver.
We have an address.
I do.
They have two separate accounts, one from across the street and one from inside the cemetery. And they're just crazy enough to be true.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Well, again, I would like to point out that we can never prove that any of these stories are actually true, but...
I know that. I am the molder of this. I want everything to be true. They're just weird enough. I'm going to say that's true.
Okay, Joyce, what do you think?
I'm going to have to disagree.
Okay.
I'm going to have to disagree.
All right. These are true. They were taken out of a book written about Park Hill Cemetery. And it is a real place. In fact, my grandmother is buried there.
Oh.
It is a lovely park, but it is supposedly very haunted. And these are two stories that were reported that are associated with Park Hill Cemetery in Vancouver, Washington.
Well, that's cool.
You know, people say that it's very rare for a cemetery to be haunted, but I've heard plenty of stories about hauntings in cemeteries.
Oh, absolutely.
I have a theory about Park Hill, and I don't think the cemetery itself is haunted.
Okay.
I think the area around the cemetery is haunted.
Ah, okay.
And hence why I think you get stories in the houses across the street as well as in the cemetery itself.
Gotcha. Yeah. Like with that plane crash in Chicago. It crashed across the street. It missed the Dan Ryan and crashed in an empty field, but there is a mobile home park just across that field. And people from the motorhome park have reported plane crash victims showing up on their doorstep wondering where their luggage is.
Yeah. I don't know of anything historical about that particular cemetery. It is relatively young, I would say maybe 30s, 40s.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
There's a cemetery just down the street that has graves from the 1840s.
Wow.
But that particular one is relatively new. It is huge. It is a big place.
Mm.
And in fact, I don't think they're allowing any more people to be buried there.
Oh.
Because of the fact that it's been filled up. There's no more room. There's housing developments all the way around it. And on one side of it is a driving range where you can go in and drive golf balls right next to the...
That's rude.
Yeah. But it is kind of a strange place. It is beautiful. It's a beautiful cemetery. And
yeah, if you want to get hit by golf balls.
Well, they try to shoot them parallel to them, so I don't know that any golf balls end up in the cemetery itself. But I wouldn't be surprised if someone had a really bad slice that it would end up in the cemetery.
Well, when I was in 4th grade, we lived in Omaha, Nebraska, and I lived at Fort Omaha, which is now I think it's a state college. And we had a lady. She was probably in mourning because she was in a black dress, very old, and a rocking chair set next to the fireplace that me and my mom would see. It was cool.
Oh, wow.
It was way cool.
I bet.
She never said anything, but she just sat there and she would rock. Like, rock on.
I'm just chilling.
All right, Joyce, who won that round?
Well, I'm going to have to give it to you. Yeah, your story it had more Oh, what words do I want to use?
Cigarette smoking?
No, you had more facts than Sylvia did.
Gotcha.
Well, so what then, may I ask, is the final score?
You got the winner in round 1, and Sylvia got winner in round 2, and you got winner in round 3, so 2-1.
Let's just say I won.
Well, let's just say I won. Well, we can't have another tie.
No, we cannot have another tie.
All right, well, I say let's place it on Joyce.
Oh, make me be the bad guy.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I will accept whatever she decides.
So will I. It's all in good fun.
And you can look at it whether it's true or fake. You can add in the wonderful storytelling abilities, whatever you like. I'll give you 10 seconds to make a decision. No, you can have as long as you want.
Tie.
Oh, no. We cannot have a tie.
Well, no, because I got winner. I said winner, loser, and then real. So you were the winner on that one, Sophie. So it was 1-1, and then on the round 3, you both won. You both got it right. I can't do this because you both got it right.
Well, what do we do, Sylvia?
I will concede to your wonderful storytelling abilities.
All right, and I will also concede to your wonderful storytelling abilities. That's not a tie.
So we both won.
Hey, that works out
and,
for me.
And I think that the listeners won because they got some really great stories.
Yeah.
So, all right. We need to wrap this up.
Okay. This was fun.
I had fun. Sylvia, what do you have to say about this? Should we do it again sometime?
We can do it again sometime. Yes. It's nerve-wracking.
It was fun.
It's fun, yes. But it's nerve-wracking.
And the thing is, the stories, 2 of mine were true and only 1 was fake.
And I was expecting you to do all 3 fake. That's what I was expecting you to do.
Yeah.
But Ron, you need to do some East Coast stuff so that, I got a chance in this.
Next time, I'll do some East Coast stuff. I wanted to bring the flavor of Vancouver, Washington to the people of the world.
Yeah, you got Saskatchewan or whoever that big old ape is out there. We got sharks and hurricanes.
Gosh, yes.
We do have Bigfoot. That is for sure.
Bigfoot, that's him.
I want people to know that we're just as haunted as anywhere else in the country.
Absolutely. Right. Except maybe New England. New England might be the most.
We got to give it to them. Got to give them the nod.
No, I think Gettysburg.
Oh
yeah.
Ron and I are going to Gettysburg someday. Yes, we are.
As soon as we can. As soon as I can figure it out.
I know. He told me that he would like to take an Amtrak train from Vancouver to Chicago and hook up with you and go from Chicago to Gettysburg.
Doesn't that sound brilliant?
It does.
See, I would just get in my car and drive to Gettysburg and meet you there.
Well, you'd be welcome to come.
Let's do it.
Let's make it a party.
Yeah.
Well, if we go to Gettysburg, that's all it's going to be is a party.
Heck yeah.
Well, I want to say just one more time, thank you both for doing this. I had a great time, and I have become a storyteller. I can honestly say that now. It is something I surely enjoy to do. And Sylvia, I have you to thank for bringing that out in me.
Well, I am delighted to help storytelling in all of its forms, Ron.
And Joyce, thank you for being here today. You made it a hoot.
A hoot. Yeah, I'm a pain in the ass. I can't say that.
Yes, you can. I'm leaving that one.
See, you're West Coast, and Sylvia's Midwest, but I'm East Coast.
You guys have always been ones to speak your mind.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right, well, thank you guys. Thank you for being a part of this, and thank you so much for being part of the 500th episode of Ron's Amazing Stories.
Thank you, Ron. Hope to talk to you soon.
Ghost Stories with Sylvia was brought to you by Gladys Goodies. I always have a great time talking with Sylvia, and I learn all kinds of new stuff. If you want to visit her on her home turf, head to sylviaschultz.wordpress.com. There you will find her blog and access to the podcast Lights Out. I will have links available in the show notes. Thank you, Sylvia. Gladys Goodies treats are a 100% natural, nutrient-rich treat that pets love to eat. You can get your treats and some really cool swag for your dog and cat at GladysGoodies.com. And don't forget to use our very own promo code RONS. That's RONS. And you'll get a 20% discount on all of your purchases. That website again is GladysGoodies.com. I hope you enjoyed this edition of Ghost Stories with Sylvia.
Pepsodent's new flavor.
Pepsodent's new flavor. Pepsodent's new flavor.
Wow!
Pepsodent's new flavor. And the clean mouth taste for hours.
Yes, the big news is Pepsodent has a brand new wonderful flavor. Grown-ups prefer it, but kids, well, kids go crazy for it. So try new Pepsodent White. Or if you prefer chlorophyll, Pepsodent Chlorophyll. You like
Pepsodent's new flavor. Pepsodent's new flavor.
Wow!
Pepsodent's new flavor. And the clean mouth taste for hours.
Well, guys, if you would have told me in 2011 that I'd still be making podcasts in 2021, I would have said I highly doubt it. However, here we are for the 500th time. There are so many people I want to thank for making this all happen. My brother for being the most faithful listener, critic, and supporter. Emma Lynn Dowd for deciding the show was good enough to be on radio not once, but twice a week. Sylvia Shults for being the best darn storyteller on the planet and for being a good friend. There are other people I've met over the years that have helped the show, but there are too many to mention them all here. What can we expect in the next 100 shows? I know that I plan to get back to interviewing interesting people and bringing new ideas. I have really shut down the interviews because my personal life has had some issues. I really do love talking to people and hearing their stories, and that simply has to come back to the show. Also, I want to have more original fiction stories. I've had some ideas rolling around in my head for years, and they just need to be put down on paper. So, there you have it. Thank you to all of you that listen to the show, send in your stories, and share your feedback. This means the world to me, and there would be no Ron's Amazing Stories if it weren't for all of you. You are the reason I do this, and will continue to do so. Thank you. Well, that was number 500, and here's to 500 more. One can hope. My thanks to Sylvia and Joyce for being part of things today. I had myself a really good time. I hope you did as well. If you want to follow the podcast or the blog, head to ronsamazingstories.com. There you will find any of the links I mentioned and how to contact us. Do you want to help the show? The best thing you can do is to tell your friends all about it, and please leave reviews or feedback wherever you listen. Clicking that follow or like button makes us grow. Thank you for listening, and I hope you come again to find out what are Ron's Amazing Stories.